Today we are going to consider a particular person recorded in the Bible, and I'm pretty sure that nobody ever talked to you about him. He's not the object of teachings actually, but his example is worth looking into. This is Pontius Pilate. That man was a governor, and he's not a fictional character, he's a real person. He was married, possibly had kids, and he was in a good position. You could see from the accounts that are given of him in the 4 Gospels that he was somebody that was searching for the truth. And that is the essence of his question to Jesus. Truth? What is truth? And I'm sure that all around there are thousands and millions of people that could have said the same thing. What is truth? In fact, around here now, in 2022, many people don't even believe that there is anything like truth. Anything goes. What is the truth for me may not be for you. Well, everybody to himself. So, he was somebody that was trying to be honestly seeking the truth. But obviously, he had not arrived to any conclusion. And the fact that he was the governor on the night Jesus was betrayed and arrested is no coincidence. It was planned from eternity. People knew not that that would be the case, but God knew. And this can be the first lesson we get. You may be in a position of decision in the corridors of the power today. Don't think that it's just because you were so gifted. Let it not swell your head. You are there for a purpose. Just like I was there when one of my students came to be part of my teaching class, a Welsh student that was struggling with English language. I could have just ignored it. But because I was an ambassador for God, I told her, "What's wrong with you?" She said, "English is not my language." From that day on, that girl became a target for me to make sure she passed, and she did. We have a unique opportunity to be somewhere, planted by God somewhere for such a time, just like Esther was chosen as queen for that particular time. She was an instrument for saving our people. Now, Pontius Pilate was situated at that point for a particular purpose. Then we see that Jesus was brought to him. Why? Because not only that Pontius Pilate was important, but he was the sine qua non. He was the one that could only sentence someone to death. The Sanhedrin could not do anything. And when Pilate said, "Well, go and judge it. If it is according to your law, then go and do it yourself." And they said, "No, because we cannot sentence anyone to death." And that's what they wanted. They wanted Jesus to be crucified. So we know that he was the door to the crucifixion or release. And in fact, that night, that day, there were only 2 people that he had to decide between, Barabbas and Jesus. And whoever was released was his own decision. Nobody could quarrel with it. Then we see that he interrogated Jesus. And the 2 things he asked him, he said, "Are you a king?" And then, "Are you the Messiah?" So that man was not a Jew, but he was absolutely knowledgeable, fully knowledgeable in Jewish affairs. He knew that people were expecting the Messiah. He was not concerned about what crime Jesus had committed, because we could see amply written, black and white, that he knew that Jesus was innocent. He said it 3-4 times to the Jews, saying, I cannot condemn someone who is innocent. So it's not like he didn't know. He had no doubt. In fact, he didn't ask Jesus, what did you do? He asked him, are you a king? And are you the Messiah? And you know that whereas Jesus didn't talk to Herod, he talked to Pontius Pilate. He had a dialogue with him. Reason was that Jesus knew that that man was genuinely interested and that he was aware. There was a link, a basis for dialogue between the two. So he answered him positively, and he told him even more than that. He said, my kingdom is not from this world. So he talked to Pontius Pilate, and the more he talked, the more Pontius Pilate became convinced that he had done nothing. The third thing we see is that not only that Pontius Pilate was knowledgeable and knew that Jesus was innocent, but he was warned. While he was in session in the court, his wife sent him a message. And you know that even now, you don't see wives of judges and barristers sending them message when they are in session. Doesn't happen. And those days, women were not barging in like that. There was submission on the part of wives, and yet she decided to send a message to him that was deemed immediate, urgent. She said, don't have anything to do with that just man, because I've suffered a lot in dream because of him. So she knew. And that is something we have to take into account when we are at the point of decision. If you receive message, check them. Don't just go and ignore. Weigh the truth of the message. But the man decided to ignore it. And why? What made him to fail in his mission to deliver justice? Fear. Fear. And it's something we all know so well. The fear of workplace disaster, losing our job, losing our promotion, losing the confidence of our peers. He was having a riot on his hands. People were shouting louder and louder and louder and louder, crucify, crucify, crucify. And nobody knew now who started it, who was behind it. Obviously the Sanhedrin was behind. But he couldn't sort it out anymore. All he was seeing was rioting, growing and growing, and Jerusalem was known for rioting. And remember, it was a colonized country. So he would have to face the Romans and explain why he left a riot take place in his court. They would have accused him then, yeah, it's your fault. And maybe he would have even lost not only his job, but his life, possibly. He just didn't know what to do. And they were even threatening him that all we want is to obey to Caesar. Caesar is our king. We don't need another king. No matter what they said, we know that mob action is always stupid and violent. And so he caved in and allowed them to push and said, okay, guilty. And he knew Jesus was not guilty. Yes, it was announced by the prophets. Yes, God knew that it would happen. But he doesn't excuse Pontius Pilate. And so he lost it. Now compare Pontius Pilate and Esther. Esther said, even if I die, I die. Pontius Pilate said, crucify. and forever. He has become popular, or at least a celebrity in the wrong sense. Everywhere in the centuries, people read the Gospels. Not only one, but the four of them. Pontius Pilate is the one that pronounced crucifixion. Without him, Jesus could not have been crucified. And yes, it was God's plan. But nonetheless, he put himself forward as the one that took the decision. My friends, my brother, my sister, don't be that one. I prefer to be Esther than Pontius Pilate. That man is really to be pitied and not emulated. So let us pray that we shall not fear. Jesus said, do not fear, only believe.